You are watching Access LaPorte County Channel 97. Coming up next is the April 29th meeting for the LaPorte County Regional Sewer and Water District Board. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Now it is.
I'd like to call the April 29th meeting of the LaPorte County Sewer and Water District to order. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please. Jennifer.
John Carr, not here. Marcella Kunstick.
Here.
Jerry Jackson.
Here.
Mitch Bishop.
Here.
Corey Campo.
Here.
Mark Danielson, not here. Amanda Laners. Here.
All right, approval of minutes. Looks like we have three different sets that need approved. We have the March 18th special meeting minutes. Should be in your packet. I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
I got a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The March 25th, 2025 regular board meeting minutes. Entertain a motion for that.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then finally, the April 7th special meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second? Anybody second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Approved.
Thank you.
Public comment. Anybody wishing to speak need to state their name, address for the record, and you'll be given 3 minutes. Anybody in the audience, please come up.
Yes, Drew Dedecker. I've got a place in Saucony, 5983 Saugana Trail, Rolling Prairie. I've got a few questions that are going to come up, but I'd be able to address this at the end of the meeting? Because there's some, further on down on the agenda, it shows that there's going to be some updates and stuff, so maybe that'll be answered then.
I would say if anybody has any specific questions, like technical questions, for example, we happen to have some of the engineering staff here. And so if we haven't covered during the meeting, they're usually very good about spending some time with you to answer any questions you might have.
Perfect. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
You bet.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Don Lodi, 7882 North Pottawatomie Trail. I'm also president of Saugany Lake Conservation Club, and I am totally in favor of the sewers. As a conservationist, we want to keep Saugany Lake pristine the way it is, and one of the ways to do that is have the sewers. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I feel like I'm almost part of the committee now, since I've been here like 4 meetings in a row or 5. Well, let me start out. My name's Mark Hewer. I'm at 5791 East Saugana Trail. We're on the agenda today to apply for an exemption to the sewer project. We do believe we qualify based upon the letter. I have a few documents with me that I'd submit if you need it, but the one was the septic tank absorption system was to be new at the time it was installed. I have a copy of the septic system. I have a copy of the bill that Sudlow put the system in. I have pictures of the property after it was done. And then second of all, the septic tank soil absorption system was to be approved in writing by the local health department. Prior to closing on our house, which we bought in July of 17, I have from June of 17, the approval for the entire new septic system, and received just after closing on the property transfer, an on-site septic system certificate, which was approved by the health department. Although we missed the deadline time deadline cutoff to provide written notice. We wish to now, at our own expense, if there's any more certifications that need to be done, and whatever information is be provided, we would provide that as soon as possible. Every other year, we have our septic pumped out. I have receipts from KFEX that the septic system has been inspected, emptied, and cleaned. We're part-time residents, so we've been in the property almost 8 years. But if you deal with that on a full-time basis, there's been 2 people in the house for about 4 months a year. So really the septic system's probably only 3 to 4 years old of usage by only 2 people, and in the summer by a few more than that. So we respectfully request your approval to file for an exemption and file all qualifying information and documentation. And thank you for your consideration of this request. And remember, in the pledge, we said liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else care to speak from the audience? If not, anybody online and Zoom?
Anybody on Zoom?
Hearing nothing further, public comments closed. Brings us to reports. Steve with the claims and finances.
Mitch, can I look at those? Mine's not
We have March financials for your consideration, along with the claim docket,
there.
starting with Hudson Saugony Lake. Receipts for the month of March, $7,620. That was interest income. And expenses paid of $1,430. Ending account balance, $2,139,035.17. For Rolling Prairie, receipts for the month of $16,327, disbursements of $7,904, add interest income of $403, and then 2 payments to the county on the loan for $3,660. Ending cash balances in total $337,332.21. Of that amount, $273,851 is in the O&M fund, $8,500 in the debt service reserve, $54,981 in the bond and interest account. For the toll road account, we had 2 receipts from the ITRCC for the month of $53,920. Payments to vendors, $19,169. Interest income of $1,600. Total ending cash balances $579,021.29. Of that amount, $210,111 in the O&M fund, and the balance of $368,910 in the improvement fund. And
Thanks.
when we go to claims.
Yeah, go to claims.
Claims for your consideration, and Mitch has the total. I had one amount in there that I didn't have at the time that I printed it. So what's the total there? $199,000 and change?
$182.73.
What was it? 100?
$199,382 and 23 cents. It's either 7 or 3.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Cheaters, but
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Wait a second here.
It's a 73.
I think it's a 73.
Yeah, it's a 73.
Okay.
move approval of claims.
Second.
Okay. I got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on. Thanks. Ashbury. Anybody? There we go.
Morning.
Hi, Chris.
Morning.
Morning.
As far as the update goes, I think most of it's on the report. but there's a few items here I have. We're looking still at replacing that hydrant that busted over the winter, and I haven't heard from Pavey, who's doing that work. And we're in the process of getting a contract on the routine maintenance on the generators. Some of the other things that were fixed over the last month, there was an air line that needed to be fixed on the air mod system, and that was completed. There is an air line leak on the main header that runs the plant, and we're going to, I think Asbury's going to come out and take a look at it and see what it takes. It's the main header that goes out of the building into the ground and is leaking right there at the ground level. You don't know it's there until you get a bunch of rain and it starts to bubble up there. So, and then I've got the pricing on the ferric. It's going to be around $1,200 for a half a tanker. So as soon as we're ready for that, we'll have that delivered from Alexander.
We get that from Camara?
I got a price from Alexander Chemical.
Okay.
It's a half a tanker, $1,200 a dry ton.
Yeah, I'll send you my price.
Okay.
What I get from Camara. They're over in East Chicago, I think.
I think we got it from Camara last time, but Alexander's giving us a good price and they're local, so.
Yep.
And the other thing is, as far as the drinking water goes, we did some water testing, and that the EPA are requiring the PFAS testing, and all those results came back lower than the detection limit. So,
is that a well or is that at a tap?
That's a tap that's finished before. It's not. It's
before the distribution system. Got it.
Chris, have you gotten any quotes at all for the generator? I mean, I provided it.
They approved it last meeting. They approved it, and we just need to get this from H&G is going to be doing the work.
H&G or H&T?
H&G.
Oh, okay.
H&T never responded.
Oh, okay.
I talked to somebody over the telephone, and they said okay. I never got anything. So last meeting they approved to just go with H&G.
Great. Thank you.
LaPorte's using Buckeye. Water Systems using McAllister. Both had good luck with both of those, so if you need more options.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
A couple questions.
Yes.
I think, weren't you going to provide a list of items, like annually, that we thought we had discussed? Marcy?
About kind of putting together like a regular maintenance and kind of like what's required.
Okay.
Checklist of things you thought we should go through and check.
I'll put that on the list.
Yeah. And then there was a quote that the board approved for you guys to do locating.
Right, that's been completed.
That was completed? Okay. I don't think I've seen the invoice for that.
Did it come through the office, Asbury's office?
I don't think I've seen it. It hasn't been on the claims, so I don't think it's been in the report that was completed. So can you check on that too? And
if you can include on your list, I'm sure there's items in the water plant, the wastewater plant that you're thinking, oh, these are getting old.
Right.
Yeah,
we should replace them before they fail.
Right.
I think that's kind of what we were talking about. Like you were going to kind of put together a punch list of things.
Like annual maintenance kind of things that we need to probably be ready or pay attention to.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had kind of talked about.
Did we put a time frame on that? I forget. It was like a 3 or 5 year time frame.
Kind of like a punch list annually, things that need to be reviewed, and then upcoming things that you can see in the future down the road that we need to start looking at.
Okay, yeah, I'll have a list for the next meeting.
Well, it doesn't,
And we can build a capital plan for our accountant.
Okay.
or, as this project's going forward, if there's anything you see that we need to start looking at.
Okay.
Especially as expanding,
Right.
right?
That makes sense.
All I think.
All right.
Is that enough or you want more?
I know there's more, but it's
Yeah, Chris.
right, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
That brings us up to phase 2 update, Dan.
Right, I don't have much of an update on phase 2 until we start billing out to SRF that remaining funds. So,
All right. Then how about Hudson Saugatuck?
jump into that. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, no problem. Don't have a ton of updates for you guys this month. Just a reminder, Next week on Wednesday, May 7th at 11 a.m. Central Time is our presentation on build, operate, transfer, and guaranteed savings contract that's going to be held in our South Bend office at 325 South Lafayette in South Bend.
Hey, what time was that again?
It's at 11 a.m. Central,
Okay.
noon Eastern. Yeah. And if you can, I think I sent out an invite through
Yep.
Outlook. If you can RSVP to it, if you're planning on attending, that way I can make sure that we get enough lunches ordered for everybody.
I don't remember if you included me on that, Dan, or not.
I didn't. You want in? Sure.
I may have had.
Yep.
Is Deanneman going to do the presentation? Is that right?
Yes.
I saw an email come
It's
through.
Wednesday the 7th.
You sent it, right, Dan, the invite?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be.
I know Corey can't be there
Yeah. I'll be in Indy.
after I got confused.
All right. Another piece of note, since this meeting was originally scheduled to happen last week, I'd indicated that the post-bid document submittal was to be sent to SRF by Friday, April 25th. That has gone in. They've responded with a couple comments. We've addressed them. So there may be some back and forth with SRF as we prepare to close, but we'll stay on top of responding to them.
With that, I'm going to interrupt. We have a lot of documents here from bond counsel, right, to sign, Jerry and John, which John is on his way here. So Jerry, don't leave. I've received all of those from bond counsel. And then also, Steve has a document that needs to be signed. Do we need any kind of a motion, Barry? I know we already have in the bond ordinance that we passed for John to sign everything. So are we good with that, or do we need?
Yeah, my recollection is the motion when we approved it was really two parts. One was to approve the bond, the other was to have any of the officers who would be necessary sign it. So I think we're good.
Okay. Steve, is this covered in all of that too, or do we need anything?
What is that, Jennifer?
It's a cover page for the due diligence submission to the SRF. I've already submitted all the documents, but there's like a cover sheet that needs to be signed and
I
sent
think
to
we're
them.
good. I think we're okay.
Okay.
It's all part of the same.
Okay.
Bond
Sorry,
issuance.
Dan, I just,
No problem.
Is there a schedule there?
Yeah.
Continuing on with Hudson Saugony update, the last permit we're waiting for, we're still trying to iron out the ins and outs of the railroad crossing permit.
This is it.
Railroad agency has required some adjustments to the casing pipe that's going to be installed underneath the railroad. We're ironing out what those are going to look like, and we anticipate getting a permit from them before pre-closing on May 8th. Then we're kind of in our final push here to get easements prior to closing. Currently for the Saugony Lake reduced scope project, we're sitting at 73% of required easements in hand, with 27% still remaining. Thank you. Do you want to jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We've made an extra push here in the last few weeks out to the people affected by the project, who will be part of the project, that now's your getting to the last chance to sign that easement. We have adequate percentages already in place for the project to move forward. And I just wanted to make sure it was clear that anybody who hasn't signed the easement, the project's still moving forward. And that means then for those property owners who haven't signed an easement, that they'll have to make their own arrangements to get a grinder pump installed at their own cost at completion of the project. So we are, with that 73% or so that Dan mentioned, there's also another 6 or 7 grinders that we could locate in the right-of-way in front of those properties as well, and that's something we'll take a look at in talking with the county highway department. But because of that, we just wanted to make sure it was clear that the project's moving forward. We have more than enough easements to keep it processing, and that if we don't have those easements, those property owners will still be required to connect. They'll still be required to pay the bill, and they'll have to connect at their own cost at the end of the project.
And
That got you time to discuss the letter?
what,
Sure, yeah. You want to go ahead?
Sure. And in your packet, you will see that we have prepared one last letter to go out to the property owners who have not signed their easements yet. And this will be, I think, one final letter that we will send to them, basically stating everything that Steve has mentioned.
you'd want those by the pre-closing date, no later, probably. Is that,
I'm sorry,
want
what?
that by the pre-closing date?
Well,
Is that
we're going to
where-
try, but
That's your goal is, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Did you,
The letter indicates May 7th, so that would work.
Yes.
did Kara already, did we send these
Yeah.
out yet? Or, I think we did because the meeting got changed.
The letter already has been sent.
Yeah.
Because we just wanted to get it out as soon as possible. Kara's also been doing follow-up phone calls to those 30 or so who haven't signed. Because again, we want to just make every effort we can to encourage the customers to sign.
And that letter's going to the 30 or so?
Yes.
Yes.
Just to the 30 or so, yes.
I mean, we will get people that'll say we didn't know about it, but we do keep track of how many times we've sent this and how many notices they've gotten and everything. That way we can say, yes, we have mailed this to you, we have provided information, this, this is the dates, this is what you received, so that we, can say we've done this several times.
That's all you could do, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We try to be very thorough.
Thank you.
You are very thorough.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. I guess that concludes Hudson Saguenay then. Okay. Executive committee, need to schedule. I guess that'd be you, Jennifer. We need to schedule executive committee meeting.
We need to schedule a date, and so I'm going to get with the email sent to a few of you, Jerry, Mitch, and John, to get that scheduled. Backup members are Marcy and Mark. So we want to get that probably this next month or so. And I think Steve and Barry will be part of that as well, and Dan and Steve.
What are we discussing?
Involvement with the toll road, and I think one other issue, but I don't remember.
Treatment
exactly.
plant mods or?
Say again, Jerry, I'm sorry.
What's the meeting about? What do we?
So the board needs to discuss what level of involvement the toll road is going to, I guess, play in this current project. That's the main focus of it.
Okay. All right, makes sense. All right, well, we'll answer that via email then with our availabilities.
What?
We'll answer that via email with our availabilities then for next month.
Yeah, I'm going to send out some possible dates, and
Okay.
I think we can probably do it by Zoom, unless you want it in person, but I think Zoom is probably the easiest to get all you people together.
If we meet in person, we ought to meet out at the treatment plant. It's been a long time since I've been out there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can do that too.
I don't know if we want to do it in this meeting, or maybe we can do this in executive as well, but there needs to be a discussion had on when to start interim billings.
And I think we usually do that, well, yeah, after the closing.
Yeah, it'd
but
be after
that's coming
closing.
up,
So I mean, at the earliest, we'd be looking at June, but
Also got to get the new billing to the names of the people to the new billing company, so I'm going to guess probably July I can foresee that being absolutely the earliest, but yeah, so I will go back and look at some dates and send some emails right away, and we can make that the second topic.
And
Do you build the capital part of it or
Debt service.
The debt.
debt service? Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
debt
would
service,
start.
yeah.
Okay.
It's tied to closing on financing or actual start of construction.
Yeah,
So
Yeah, we have a $36,000 principal payment as it's structured right now, assuming that that's what gets approved at closing in January 1, principal payment. And then $45,000 each 6 months after that. So we'll probably have 3 principal payments on the bond during construction.
You mentioned billing service. We do have a new billing service starting January 1st. Is Ashbury is taking that over?
July 1st,
July 1st.
Asbury. So we are, they are emailing us, and we're starting to work with them to provide them information to get them set up and started. Marcy has already worked with them, getting banking and information, so that process and that information is already not slowly, but under, and they
Starting
have a
to-
lot to get set up and get moving, so they're working on it.
yeah,
Okay.
John and I had to sign off on it.
Yep.
Sounds good. Moving on then. Engineering committee, no meeting was held.
Right.
And that gets us to the 3 properties.
Yes,
for
these are the
exemption.
final 3 properties for exemptions that have followed the proper protocol and the health department has approved. And these 3 properties are, need to be approved by the board officially.
What does the exemption mean? How long does it apply?
They can officially get up to 20 years. They get initial 10 years, then they can renew the process, get another 5, and then they can renew it again and get another 5. That is if they do not have a failing septic or any issues during that time. If they do, then they would have to connect to the system.
Okay.
At the end of that exemption period, they have to connect at the system at their own expense at that time, because there will be no grinder or placed or set aside for them
Correct. Right
during the
now,
project.
The project does include grinders for every property, but the typical process is, once we start construction, we will change over out the grinders.
You have to come to the mic.
Yeah, go ahead.
Steve.
She can't hear you for recording.
So the process with the exemptions is typically, right now, everybody was assumed to be part of the project and being served with a grinder. Those that have now requested and been granted an exemption, and I think there'll be a total of about 11 on this project, right in that ballpark.
Yeah, I didn't bring my spreadsheet, sorry.
Once we get under construction, we will change order out the grinders and the installs of those grinders for those 11. So whenever their exemptions do expire, then similar to those who haven't signed easements, they'll have to get their own grinder station and connect at their own cost to the system whenever that time frame comes where their exemption expires.
Yeah. A maximum of 20 years total.
Total, correct.
Yes.
So, I mean, you can have a older system and still get the exemption, but you could have your exemption for a year or however long, and if your septic fails or has an issue, you would have to connect at any point during that 20 years.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a gamble if you don't have a new system.
It could be, yeah.
Right.
The gentleman who, I'm sorry, I don't recall your name, who came up, does he have the appropriate paperwork, all the,
I have no idea.
okay.
We will get into that once it,
Oh, that's a little
he's-
further down the aisle.
yeah, it's on the agenda. I put that in there, and then I can go over that information.
So these 3, though, in the list, they all received
These 3
department approval
on the-
and meet the requirements.
They,
For exemption.
they did the process for the exemptions where you received the letter, you signed the paperwork that you received the letter. You had until December 21st to file to us in writing that you wanted to apply for the exemption. During that time, you had to get your septic inspected by appropriate ISO, what is it?
IOWP.
IOW qualified septic inspector. You had to file that paperwork with me. Then it was sent all to the health department to have the permit and the septic information reviewed. Amanda, health department, informed me if it was indeed approved and acceptable. If it was acceptable, then I brought it to the board and said they met all of the requirements, checked.
Right.
And then the final step is for you guys to approve the property for exemption.
Gotcha.
Right.
One more question. Do we have a way to remember that these exemptions happened and when the time comes up?
Recording them.
Yes, I keep track of that information on a spreadsheet, and then I will be the one that sends out their reminders when it's time, and they have to go back and renew at the end of their initial time frame.
You
And
signed
then
on with JPR for 20 more years then?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, wow.
Somebody will, if I'm not here, or GPR, or whoever your district administrator.
Well, that would be the building, the new building people, Ashbury.
I don't think that qualifies under billing, but. Or your attorney would volunteer to do it for you.
You want to take these individually, or you want to lump them together?
I think you
in a
could
motion?
probably do one motion to.
Yeah, you can lump them all together, I think.
Well, I retain a motion for these three. It seems like they met all the statutory requirements.
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thanks. It brings us to new business. Next meeting, May 27th, in person here, 9 a.m. All good with that?
Okay. Should be.
Okay. That is
Okay. I put in your packets
Memorial Day.
for the audit, the 2022 and 2023 audit information that Steve and I completed with Crow, and then the South State Board of Accounts information. Looks like you guys had a pretty good review.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yay. Way to go, Steve and Jennifer and whoever was involved in that.
And we get to pay for that, don't we?
Oh, yes, you had a nice,
Generously.
Yeah, 12,000.
almost $19,000. Yeah.
Ouch.
For an independent firm to.
Yeah.
Not including the time that Jennifer and I put
Right.
to it,
Right.
too.
Oh, and Steve, I just remembered, you wanted to transfer money to the Hunted Saugony account?
Yeah, I was, we can defer that to the next meeting if you want. I think after these payments, we'll have $6,000 to $8,000 still in the
Oh,
checking
okay. You're
account. So
okay
we can
then.
wait until next month if you want to do
Okay.
it then.
All right.
Sounds good.
Okay,
I guess moving on then, another new business regarding the late exemption requests.
yeah.
Mark Hewer.
I provided in your packet, the gentleman that already spoke, he received, when that mailing went out on October 23rd, he received the information, and I provided you a copy of the certified card that he signed on October 25th for that information. And his exemption expired the end of last year, like everyone else's did, and we never received anything for his paperwork. And the time ran out. And now he's coming to you guys and asking for an exception to that rule. And I at this point,
Has there been a septic inspection, or do we got everything we need?
no, we have nothing.
And the issue, I think, Jerry, is, first of all, it's a board decision. So I'm just going to, I am neutral about what the board does. I will just tell you that the statute speaks of qualification for the exemption in the words of must. In other words, it says to qualify for an exemption under this section, a property owner must. And then that triggers the 60-day deadline from the date they got notice.
And what language is that you're reading? Where's that from?
That's actually Indiana Code.
State code.
Got it. It's not our code.
This is statutory.
No. This is Indiana Code 13-26-5-2.5, which is the whole section dealing with septic tank soil absorption system exemptions. And so, by my read, there is no, a board may waive, a board may do this. I mean, it just says the property owner must. Board can still obviously do whatever it wants. My concern really isn't for the property owner here. My concern would be if we grant one exemption, I'm not sure what would be different if we now had 5 more late exemption filings. And again, you might say, so? And as an attorney, I'd say so. But Steve over here could probably tell you that we have set rates.
Right.
And we have a bond package approved with the state and a project approved with the state with a certain number of exemptions granted. And so all of a sudden, if we start to affect the number of ratepayers, then we affect the cost per ratepayer. I mean, not only could it be then spread out over all the other ratepayers who have already signed on to the project, but you know, it would have, I'm not sure that we could, let's say you got a rush of, and again, I don't know about one, but if we got a rush of 5 or 10, I can assure you it would screw up the whole project in terms of the bond issuance, the package that we received from the state, the $5 million grant we received. So to me, the concern isn't really about the one exemption. I don't know enough financially how one exemption would impact the project. I do know that 10 exemptions would significantly impact the project now that it's on such a reduced scale. That would be a big percentage, and I would think it would put the project into significant jeopardy, at least at the rates that we've approved for the people who are involved in phase 1.
Understand.
He did receive, looks like we do have a certified mailing, and he did sign off on it, like you state, October 25th. I don't know why he didn't get the ball rolling a lot quicker than he did in the last minute, but we do have copies of that here. So I don't know, any more questions from the board, or what's the board's pleasure? Yeah, go ahead.
Something?
Yeah, come to the podium.
When we
You should come to the mic.
Podium.
You have to come up to the mic.
Microwave. Good.
Our interpretation was to sign the easement, we felt pretty much under pressure to sign the easement to allow for it when eventually would go through. And we were under the impression from talking to several people that you could have the system put in and not hook up. And then when you do hook up in the future, you pay for whatever the cost of the bond is, which was supposed to be about half of what the bill was to be. So if it's a $100 bill, $50, you pay that up until the time you're hooked up into. So we thought that was a possibility, as explained to us at a meeting at the Conservation Club a couple of years ago by the engineering firm. We did inadvertently miss the deadline. I apologize for that. But we do have I have all the documentation that would qualify for the first two soil absorption. The county's approved it, health department approved it. Before we closed on the house, a whole new septic system was put in. We're part-time residents. I would just deeply ask you to seriously consider allowing this one exemption. And my only failure was not to provide at the December meeting. But we thought the easement signing had nothing to do with the 60-day you had to file it.
You understand, though, the position we're in here, in our time frame.
I got you.
Our users, for us to make an exemption, do we set a precedence and we have 5 to 10 others come in? It's a really tough situation to put us into as a board because we understand the law and the state law and statute. So
you could always make the exemption that this is a one-time event and it won't be done again.
It's difficult for the other residents, though. I mean, if it were me, I would feel, I'd be very disappointed if I did not get the exemption also after the fact. So I'm just saying I would defer to.
Well, I guess I've been coming to the meeting since January, and I've made it known, and I was told not to provide information unless I got the approval of the committee, because it would have been kind of a waste of my efforts. Well, I have accumulated everything since January.
Yeah.
And had it in hand, but I was just asked not to submit anything until I got an approval.
And who suggested
I would have submitted this months ago.
And who suggested that? You not?
Jennifer suggested at the last meeting of the one before not to provide it yet.
Yeah, the information's from 2017. It still has to be new information if you get it. You have to get it re-inspected.
Correct, but I was told not to do that unless I got approval. So I did not do it until I would get this approval, and this is when they put me on the agenda.
And
Or it
again,
would have been
though,
on the agenda months ago.
just to clarify for the board, the 60 days would have run in December,
Yeah.
Oh, correct.
not January.
I
Yeah.
understand.
Right.
And again, I don't
But
have
it
any.
still would have been in before the 120 days. I would have had everything turned in.
Right, but the 60 days
right.
triggers the 120 days.
Yeah.
Look, I didn't write the statute,
Yeah,
but
it's
my
the law.
obligation is to give them advice so that they don't get sued by other homeowners
Right.
or ratepayers whose rates are affected.
And the first email we got was March 10th.
That's what I noticed.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm
Yes. I'd
confused
been
about.
coming to the meetings before that, but that was the first meeting which I'd sent an email. Yes.
Yeah. So
I
I'm,
agree.
okay.
Well, thanks for your consideration. I would hope you would approve this one time. It's not like we have an old septic system that we're looking for an exemption on. This thing is new. It's a new it's state-of-the-art system, and we don't want to pollute it either. We've been coming here since the 1940s in the family. We have 6 properties, and this is the only one we're asking for because of the newness of the system. And we spent a lot of money on the system, $13,000, and now we're having to, well, whatever. Enough with my sob story.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. What's the board's pleasure regarding the situation?
Ask Amanda and Jerry how they feel about it. Sorry to put you on the spot, but
How does the health department feel about it? I guess my position is how many people got it within the deadline?
11.
Now, there's, I think there's,
I think there's 15. That's what I used.
I think
and
there's almost-
I think we were at 116, and then our final number was 101.
yeah, I think there was about 15.
So every
And there was actually one that was denied because their system did not
Too old.
meet.
I think there was
Yeah.
at least two,
Was there two
or
that were
three.
denied because their system didn't meet the qualifications? So there was a total, I think, of 17 that applied.
And then 15 got it. One didn't meet the requirements.
Two of them didn't, yeah.
And then Mr. Hoyer here.
And he is not included in that number.
Okay.
Tough decision. The bottom line for me usually is environmental, but there's also now statutory requirements that rear their head too. Tough decision. The protecting a lake is the bottom line in public health, of course.
It is. And yes, it's a newer system. It's going to be, 8 years old this year, but we don't have an inspection done recently, an IOPA inspection showing if the system is and how it is functioning. And I do have to go back. The health department, we live by the code. So I would have to defer back to Barry when you're saying about it, having to follow what the IC code states.
Okay.
Again, the board is free to do whatever it wants, but the problem is, in my opinion,
hoping up.
I don't know how, even if your motion was I vote for one exemption, that means nothing to now 3 additional homeowners who find out about it and say,
What about
the
us?
board has already pushed aside the deadlines in the statute, so why not me? And again, the issue is that affects the rates. I mean, there are not that many ratepayers, right? We don't have 1,000 ratepayers here. We have 100 ratepayers. And so every additional non-ratepayer has an impact. And again, we've reported how many ratepayers and how many exemptions there were to the state in this whole grant bond package at this point. All the financials Steve has done, and he's had to do them multiple times, have all indicated that. So I can't imagine we wouldn't have to, if there were a change, report that to the state. And again, we're scheduled to close, I think we have a pre-closing next week, but I mean, we don't have any leeway in terms of timing to get the project rolling.
Right.
I don't think this is a particularly fair decision, but I guess I move to deny.
Second. I got a motion and a second of denial of the exemption. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to old business. Interlocal agreement. The 1.5 ARP funds. Barry?
At the urging of JRP, which was good urging, I reached out to the county attorney, who then brought in the county auditor, just to kind of give them a heads up that this was now going forward and what our time frame was. And so they are kind of ready, and I think what they're going to need, according to what they said, Steve, is, again, what they said is, you just get us kind of your closing documents. Now, I said, I haven't seen all the closing documents, but I would imagine they would be into the hundreds of pages. And so maybe Steve and I will figure out once it closes what we can get them. But they just want proof that we got our financing, it's closed, and it's done. And if Jennifer or anybody else has had experience about what specific municipalities or counties have wanted, I'll take.
Can we get them, I mean, some of the stuff that John and Jerry are signing and I'm getting to BT, and then all that stuff that's signed on May 7th, we'll have all that information. We can probably provide them, I'm guessing.
Yeah, like Barry said, we could flood them with a lot of things, but I think if all they're looking for is proof that we're closing, we can wait until either May the 8th or even May the 22nd when we close, and just provide them with a certificate of closing.
Okay.
You know, something from the SRF that
I would think
says
that.
Probably the sooner the better, and
No,
then,
I think we wait till it actually
Right.
closes. So I would
Yeah.
think right after the 22nd, we give them, you know, if there's I always think of whether it's like a normal commercial or residential, it'd be 1 or 2 or 3 pages. I think we start with something like that. If they want more documentation, I'm sure we can give them as much as they might want.
right. Okay.
Okay, appreciate it. Brings us up to a big topic, adjournment. I got a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks.